hot afternoon in Banjul. And with me is Dr. Ousman Gajigo. It's a familiar face. This is his second time on The Verified. Dr. Gajigo, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Beautiful. So, I mean, we will have to delve a little bit into your specialty, which is one of two, farming and economics,
Right.
which I would think it's one and the same anyway, because
In a way.
yeah, in a way. And the first thing, let's look at the what has been making the news in the over the week from Wednesday upwards. The National Assembly members visited the residence of the former presidents. I mean, the ones who are investigating the sale and the management of the assets of the former president, after the Republic story made an allegation of corruption in the process. They visited the former president's residence, and it's what came. It's huge neglect. The hyenas are not being given feeding. There is no budget for their feeding. There is no budget for the feeding of the crocodile. The fish ponds are abandoned. Fish pond is around 150, I think, by 100 meters, they said, something like that. It's a big fish pond. It's like a small river. Abandoned. There are a number of crocodile pools that are abandoned. The zebras are in the bush. We couldn't see them. There are another animal species, I can't even remember the name. That, I mean, are you surprised Kanilai is in the state of deterioration?
No, I'm not surprised, actually. What would have, given what we know about this government, what would have surprised me is that if these national assets, because this is what they are. These are national assets. These are no longer Jammeh's personal assets. These are national assets. What we know about this government, what would have surprised me, if we found that these things were being well taken care of, the assets are being guarded and protected, their values are being maintained or augmented. That would seriously, I would have been pleasantly surprised. So I'm not that surprised. I've been to Kanilai a few times. On multiple occasions, I've tried to access the facilities, but have not been successful. But I've gone all the way to the, to the entrance. So once you reach Campenda, you get a sense of the neglect. If you see the dilapidated condition of the road,
Yes.
the huge potholes that are there.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, this is just a short distance, a few kilometers. Right there, that gives you an indication of the degree of neglect. But these are the things they are talking about. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Here we have Abuko Nature Reserve that is, also, now going into a very terrible state. We have this that could be turned into a nature reserve, a tourist attraction. You have Gambians you have tourists that are coming to Gambia and making trips going to Senegal to look at things. These are all values we can capture here.
You go to Fatala.
Yeah, I go to Fatala. It's a very common occurrence when you are going to when you go to the ferry crossing to be seeing tourist vehicles ferrying tourists from our hotels here to Fatala. But almost everything in Fatala, you could have it in that reserve in Kanilai. All you have to do is maintain this. I mean, its value alone can, the value can more than cover for the cost of maintaining it. The buildings that are there that have been constructed, can serve as lodges, can serve as, if you look at currently what is the government doing with the housing estate built by Social Security there?
Yeah, there.
Yeah, that's already there.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things, one of the things is also the neglect in Kanilai also is the value of those social security estates, because if Kanilai is taking care of naturally the values of...
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all of this can be things that could be monetized and have value for the nation. Or even in the worst case circumstance, maybe privatize it. At least I say, because whatever service that is done there, it will help those communities develop Foni Councillor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be revenue coming directly to the government. As long as it has benefits to the local economy, it helps the country. Yeah, so it's a combination of many things. I mean, this is a whole area. So the problem here is that because something like this requires a significant amount of thought, planning, investment, and a government, that is known for being unserious, like this government, that sort of thing is just beyond their ability.
But I mean, government is an institution that's always complaining about cash, about money, about revenue. We are expanding revenue, expanding. But it seems to be the case that each time they are thinking about expanding revenue, they're thinking about either increasing tax or increasing the tax base or things like that. Like this is.
Yeah. No, in fact, you're giving them too much credit by mentioning tax base. No,
Yeah.
It's not tax base. They're just interested in increasing tax revenue.
Yeah.
And for a government that is interested only in short-term generation tax revenue,
Yeah.
As I told, I try to explain this to people. When you look at tax revenue, it has three components.
Mm-hmm.
You have the tax rate that is applied. You have the collection efficiency of the revenue authorities, and then you have the tax base.
Mm-hmm.
Each of these have varying degrees of difficulty in terms of how much control the government has over them.
Mm-hmm.
The tax rate is the easiest. It's just a matter of regulation or legislation by changing the corporate tax rate, the VAT, value-added tax, all of those other things. Collection efficiency, all you have to do, maybe you can add a few more of the workforce of the GRA in various locations to go and do MSO compliance, and you can increase the collection efficiency. The tax base, it is all of those are relatively easy, but their effect on tax revenue is actually very limited. Because if you increase the tax rate very high, now let's say currently the corporate income tax currently is around 29-30%. If you increase that to 35%, yes, assuming everybody, the compliance stays the same, you'll collect more tax revenue, right?
Yeah.
But suppose you increase that further to 50%, what's going to happen? Compliance will fall. At some point, your tax revenue will go down.
Yeah.
Now, collection efficiency also, there's a limit to how much you can change that.
Yeah.
You can bring more workforce, but issues of supervision, logistics, and other things, is at some point, your cost will in fact swamp the amount of revenue you get. Now, the variable there that will, whenever you increase that, it will have a huge effect on tax revenue is the tax base. But this is the part where the government has least control over the short term. It has control over that over the long term. It requires long-term investments, like making sure that business enabling environment, investment climates are favorable. Energy, access to energy is good. Like today, we wouldn't be sitting in this sweltering room because power has been out since in the morning. Roads are good. Logistics services at ports and other things, access to finance, all of these things are operating. So you have these three components. So in a tax revenue is a function of all three of them. But the ones that can be changed short term in a lazy way, these ones, their effect is very small and in fact can be negative. The one effect that requires long-term planning, serious government, is one that is most difficult to change in the short term. So going back to your earlier point, this government is interested in raising tax revenue, increasing it. But as in any serious lack of, a government that is not serious, they don't focus on the long term. They focus only on the short term. And in here, what does that mean? You focus on businesses that are visible, that you can see, and you just put very punitive tax rates on them. Even if you don't increase they can play all sort of games. Like if you are a business, they'll say, oh, you have a pickup truck, it's an expense, we'll tax it. When it makes no sense. As opposed to thinking long term, where it might actually make sense to have less tax revenue today, but allow business activities to expand so that tomorrow you can have a greater tax revenue.
So here is a situation where we have multiple $1 million investment going to waste. So for example, if you go to Kanilai, it's like Jammeh has, where the 4 houses are, It's like an ecology resort. It has beautiful trees. It has beautiful. There are, in fact, I saw red colobus monkey there, one of the rare species that are in the monkey park. Maybe Jammeh might have taken them from the monkey park.
Okay.
I saw a lot of bird species. This is place where Jammeh used to host the foreign dignitaries when they visit. The house is in steady deterioration. Like even the electricity is not in this area. I mean, this is something that solely could have been utilized. I mean, maybe
Absolutely.
investment in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, the government always talks about, yeah, we don't have money. Like, oh, you'll talk to some government, misguided government officials that will say, you ask them, why don't you do this thing, this service, or provide this good for the community? They'll say, we don't have a project. As if any development that happened in every part of the world depended on a project from outside. The reality is that all of the things that can be done immediately to help people does not involve a single butut coming from outside. Before you talk about money coming from outside, the first thing that any government, serious government needs to do is just be serious about your expenses. So how can this government? I mean, obviously they cannot say it's lack of money. I know that's what they would say, but it makes no sense. It cannot be lack of money that's preventing the upkeep of those facilities. Because you go to the government budget, you can easily find a list of items that are, costing the government, that are costing the country money, that would be better spent, you know, taking care of national assets that in fact have the potential to generate income. You just have to go through our budget, look at the amount we spend on vehicles that don't need to be. Now, all of these ministers now all of a sudden got V8 vehicles when they already had perfectly functioning Prados. What happened to those extra Prados? Money that is being spent on embassies that we don't need to have, that could easily be spent on a national asset locally that would be able to generate, economic activities in Fonis, in Combos, generate income for the country, create a boost for the tourism sector, which is one of our biggest drivers of economic growth. So the thing here is basically you have a failure of leadership, that the leadership that doesn't sit down and think about what is in the nation's interest, then prioritize its activities and expenditures accordingly. This is what's
You've talked
happening.
about tourism. I mean, where could we have placed Kanilai? Because we have Kanilai, okay? You've talked about a lot of investment in Kanilai. In fact, a lot of materials that are in Jammeh's own personal house have been there. They're not even Jammeh's, they are state, okay? I've seen portraits of force cabinet that doesn't belong to Jammeh, that's state's own. I've seen things there that in fact, like you said, this is forfeited to state. So it doesn't belong to Jammeh again. So it's essentially, we're talking about economic crime. It's neglect of,
Pretty much.
yes.
Let's put it this way. Maybe I may be jumping ahead to another topic, but look at it this way: if these assets were such that they could easily be stripped and sold,
Yeah.
a lot of them would be gone by now.
Quick cash.
Quick cash.
Yeah.
Just like we've seen with the assets from the Jammeh Commission.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these assets we are talking about are immovable assets,
Yeah.
or they cannot be easily liquidated. The government officials that are there that took part in the liquidation of those other assets couldn't be bothered. In other words, if we have, if it's if these are assets, if these are things that the government could easily liquidate and use the money immediately, frivolously or in a corrupt way, in your trip recently, you wouldn't have found any of those assets there.
Yeah.
Just like those other assets were completely sold at fire sale prices or sold among relatives and friends, the same thing would have occurred here. So, but because these assets are a little bit more difficult to liquidate or to move, they don't feel it is worth their while because there is no immediate personal benefit to these government officials that are there.
Yeah.
This is why, for them, let it rot. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
I don't benefit from it. I'll look for easier ways of making money.
Yeah. So, but I mean, what could we have done in Kanilai? I mean, strategically. I mean, one, we know Social Security has started an estate agent, a company, estate facility there. They did that because Kanilai was becoming increasingly a huge attraction.
Well, not really. That was just a presidential directive.
Yeah, it was a presidential directive. They were hoping people are going to buy to settle near Kanilai because, I mean, Jammeh was living in Kanilai.
Exactly.
So, but, I mean, we know if we invest hugely in Kanilai, in Jammeh as a resort, and have it as a major tourism attraction site, the value of that real estate will increase.
Of course. Of course. No, I mean, listen, what to do? A serious government will say, okay, maybe putting that real estate, that social security housing there wasn't the best thing.
Yeah.
Maybe putting that resort there in Kanilai wasn't the best thing.
Yeah.
But these are foregone conclusions. It's already there. Yes. These are foregone conclusions.
Yeah.
So now that they are there,
yeah,
how can we handle these assets?
Yes.
That is in the national interest.
Yes.
Now, you have a housing is a major investment.
Yeah.
Now, you cannot, you could sell it. You can properly value it, unlike some of those assets they did.
Yeah.
You can properly value them and sell them. Now, right now, if you don't take care of the assets in Kanilai where Jammeh is living, what economic value, who would want to go and live in those? That may be some communities around there, but the value will be low. If you were to liquidate those social security houses at this stage right now, without in the absence of all of those investments, because you're going to get a fraction of their value. But if you were to take the time needed for the upkeep of those assets, knowing that these assets now, putting them into alternative uses, apart from keeping them as some sort of a nature reserve, as some sort of an eco lodge or something, it's going to be very difficult. Now your best bet is maintain their value, upgrade them to the extent possible, either to try to flip them, because it doesn't matter if the government is running it or a private sector is running it. What matters is that as those things are operating at the value that they should, the employment opportunities they will generate, the economic value they will generate, the tourism, nature reserve value they will generate, those will remain within the country. Whether or not they are controlled by the state, they will be controlled by another private Gambian entity. What matters is that when tourists come, they have alternatives to go to apart from just what is in Abuko Nature Reserve. They don't have to cross the river, go to Fatala. They can just go to Kanilai. Any community located between Foni Kansala and the beach area will benefit. Any of those vehicles that are going through, they have a chance and there's a likelihood they'll stop along the way. The transportation services that will that service these areas will benefit. Any community that is in Foni or in Combo that can bring arts and craft services to tourists, now they'll have extra avenues apart from just all congregating on the beach.
The councils will also have expanded.
Yes, Brikama Area Council will have access to the tax base will expand. So this is what we talk about, where a short-term investment now is going to generate a lot of economic activity, and this is going to substantially expand the tax base. And the government, whatever they may initially lose in terms of that, it's not lose, whatever they may initially invest initially, they will more than recoup it in terms of tax revenue from various sources.
There are currently discussions ongoing about the issue of investing in Kiang National Park. But the irony is that they are neglecting, there's no budget for the park in Kanilai.
Yeah, well, this is the other thing. I think we may have talked about.
You think maybe we're just driven by donor funds? Like
no. I mean, that's a big part of it. Yeah. If your activity, what you do, is determined by what donor gives you, your country is not going to develop. Let me tell you one thing.
It's true. I agree.
I've worked at the World Bank. I've worked for the UN. I've worked for ADB.
Yeah.
There is no country in the world that has been developed by African Development Bank, that has been developed by the UN, that has been developed by the World Bank.
Yes.
No country in the world.
Yes.
What happens is countries that are lucky enough to get a good leadership, they put their countries on a development path. Then along the way, they get assistance either from these multilateral donors like World Bank, UN, ADB, or Islamic Development Bank, or from bilateral donors like EU or North American countries or Asian countries. In other words, your
You have to
development,
do
your
the
future,
planning, yes.
is in your hands. Your priorities should be defined by you, not by any outside group, no matter how well meaning, no matter how well funded they are. If you don't determine your goals, put in place the right leadership in there, implement your plans, execute them with high fidelity, you're not going anywhere. The money that comes gets wasted, just like all of the development aid that is coming right now, it's getting wasted. So this issue of the government thinking of or talking about Kian West is a complete joke. Let me tell you, it's the same joke as the government thinking about building another technical university when UTG doesn't get the attention it needs.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying we shouldn't have more universities. That's fine, we need to. But before you talk about building another institution of excellence here and there, killing us with nonsense talk,
Yeah.
why don't you address the current problems in UTG,
Yeah.
making sure that capable students have funding, making sure that the majors and the fields of studies that are there are well funded, there are enough lecturers, competent lecturers, the laboratory equipment, textbooks, all these other things, facilities for students are there. But right now you have...
So in other words, improve quality before you think of quantity.
Yeah. I mean, I know students right now who just finished grade, the very high score, in grade 12.
Yeah.
But, very, very uncertain whether or not they will get, funding. They'll have to pay their first term, the first semester, before they have a chance of being funded in the next semester. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, seriousness determines...
And they currently have worked out with, I don't want us to digress, but they've go with a student fund.
Well, a student fund that probably won't have anything, sort of like the road fund. We have the national road fund, but it's chronically underfunded. We have the national health insurance. How many people have had their health expenses being funded by national health insurance?
Yeah.
You can have things in name, but do they actually function?
Exactly. So if you look at the issue of the state of the national park particularly, I mean, we've been to where the crocodile is. The last time they fed them was in March this year.
The crocodiles.
Yeah, Sunkarokon. That should have been in March.
But this is actually a national hazard.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these dangerous carnivores, predators, and this, not only are they not taken care of, which means the enclosure is also not being taken care of.
Yeah.
These animals could start escaping any moment.
Yeah.
Because I've driven around the perimeter once. I mean, I've come through from Alakunda side towards the back.
Yeah.
Many parts of the fence are actually about to fall down.
Yeah.
So which means a lot of these animals can start escaping.
Those things are not also taken care of. In fact, that's the worry that that's the question a lot of us have, because we've asked to see the zebras, and they said there is also 2, I don't know, aeons they call it or something. It's this type of an animal. They said there is 2 of that, and there is around 15 of zebras or something like that. Well, we've not seen them.
And they can't keep track of it. And
we've not seen them. And in fact, they said they don't have the vehicle to patrol the area. They have to rely on the military. Yeah. But do you not also think that just even when we have to decide to invest in the place, we shouldn't work on demilitarizing Kanilai?
Yeah, I mean, again, but is it surprising anybody? The government already decided to address forestry and logging issue to bring the military in. This is the same government that not only maintained the number of military checkpoints, but they actually increased it. I'll give you an example. In Brem Krosumang or Wellingaraba, there was no military checkpoint there during Jammeh's time. There was no military checkpoint in Sambuya, the border of Jimara and Fuladu. There was no military checkpoint in Fatoto during Jammeh's time. All of these military checkpoints were additions in this regime. So should you be surprised that their go-to solution is because we have this group here with guns, let's send them everywhere. After all, we don't trust them to, in fact, even do basic things. We are going to rely on economic. So maybe as a consolation, we'll just throw them out.
But if that is the thinking, why don't you retrain them, retrain some to be chef and to be to be hotel managers, to be and hand over as a civilian when they turn to be civilian. I mean, you can have that as part of security sector reform.
Well, you are thinking long term. Again, as everything is evident here.
Because
Look,
Kanilai, I mean, Kanilai could be turned into a huge investment
yeah,
if it's managed by level-headed individuals.
absolutely. Listen, this is an area that is within short drive.
It's
On a good day,
2 hours
yeah.
nearly.
In fact, and that's because of traffic.
Yeah.
You know, if you had good roads between here and there, you're talking
Yeah.
about an area that should be a 1 hour drive.
Yeah.
You know, at most 1 hour drive. Um, this is, don't think of it just like, I mean, think of it as regional development.
Yeah.
Foni Councillor, the one of the biggest, towns in the whole of Foni is Biam. This is just outside of Biam. It's also almost halfway between Soma and Brikama. You know, this is something that development in Foni is development for the Gambia. You know, it's something whether the government is whether it's owned by the government, like I said, or run by a private entity, or bought by a private entity to be developed. This is something that can create employment for people. It means also not every young person who finishes school in Combo in Foni will have to come to the Combos looking for job. This is not just something specific to Foni. If you had a similar opportunity, if you develop Kia West, again, young people from Kia West, opportunities will be given to them. They don't have to all come to Combos to look for job. You could say the same thing about about
Babun
Babun
Island.
Island in Kuntau. Right now, the bridge between Waso and Kuntau is almost about to collapse. The wharf town of Kuntau that used, you could say the same thing about Kaur, but the wharf towns in those areas in Central River region, in CRR, these were areas of very high economic activities. They've all become run down over the years. These are opportunities where you can develop these things, not only for those specific sectors in the economy like tourism, but the economic activity generated there can develop value for those regions, but and also for the country as a whole. You can kill many birds with one stone.
You see, maybe this is what we are seeing in Kanilai. It's a symptom of the broader economic ills in the Gambia. Because you're giving us an example of where, for example, we've invested billions of dollars, billions of dollars on roads. Say, for example, in Banjul, we've spent $40 million. And these are not necessarily increasing in fundamental way economic activity or revenue for the government. I mean, no disrespect to what's been done there, but why do you think we seem to neglect all these other revenue generating avenues where we could be expanding essentially government's gains?
Well, because by and large, this government is not sitting down thinking about what should be guiding its investment decisions or its decisions in general. If any serious government should be what is in the long-term interest of the country. If you look at many things that this government is doing, it's one of two things seem to be driving what they are doing. What is politically expedient in the short term and for the next coming election, what helps them politically, or how can it enrich the political platforms. If you see many of these contracts that are being given, they are, whether in agricultural project, road projects, they are being given to people, who are connected to the president, who have financed his campaign. They invested in his political rise, and now they are being getting paid. We have rice fields that have been projects funded by African Development Bank in CRR and URR, whose development should have been given to the best and most competent contractor, but yet it was given to people who are friends of the president.
Politically connected individuals.
The stadium, again, $100 million. The work is substandard, and now our local teams are supposed to play outside.
It's actually over $100 million.
Exactly. So a government that operates, that thinks about what is in national interest, will not think about, let me benefit a contractor. We'll say the work that is being done, who are the ultimate benefits? It's Gambians. And in making that, in making that decision, you pick the best person qualified. Let me give an example. If, let's say you have a university here, you just built a new university. We know right now, maybe the pool of people who can be top-notch researchers in the Gambia is not that high. And you want to go and what is your goal in that university? Produce quality education, right? Your goal shouldn't be to provide lectureship for Gambians. That is a means to an end. Now, if you are lucky to have large number of Gambians who can be competent lecturers for the students, yes, hire those Gambians. But in the short term, if the best lecturer you can find is from Ghana, should you still pick an unqualified Gambian because he's Gambian? No. Chances are you already picked that guy for other reasons. Definitely not for the ultimate, the most important goal in that sector. So in this government, if you look at all of the developments they do, ostensibly it seems like it's happening in the countries for the Gambia, but that's not the case. The reality always is that some other goal is being met that is different from what the ultimate national goal should be. Yeah. So this is the common thread you see in many of these projects. Or many of these scenarios that we are observing right now.
So, let's now, after talking about Kanilai, it's in a huge state of dilapidation. It's military, it's still under military, and maybe just for one thing, and that's a contradiction myself I have noticed, and I did a short video about it. I didn't post it yet. And it shows the Africans and what inspires our political support. If you go to Kanilai, it's two worlds. You have Foni, which is essentially encompassing the residence of the former president. And you have Kanilai, which is deprivation. You see poverty. You see compounds without fences. You see corrugate roofs that are totally almost ripped apart. That's poverty right there. There's something vicious about the African president. Jammeh was riding a custom-built car, expensive, probably the most expensive in the world, and passed through poverty to opulence. We still live in that. It's the way we see former leaders, isn't it?
And that problem, that problem is that sort of thing is still present here.
Yeah,
it's still present in the. It seems like, in a way, we have certain breeds of leaders. It's as if, for them, appreciating their status in society today depends on other people being intensely deprived.
Yeah,
it's all about relativity, being relatively better off, rather than let's try to bring everyone up.
Yes.
Let me give an example. A former minister of finance lived not far from me. One of his houses, when he moved to it in this place in Brusubi, there was no street light in the whole street. But he pretty much brought Nawek to fix that street light facing his compound, only his compound. The whole street that he's on just was dark. But he pretty much brought the whole national electricity company to fix that one street light that is facing his compound. I remember driving at night and thinking, it's interesting how this is not a source of embarrassment to him, but in fact for him, for that minister,
pride.
This is a source of pride, because it makes him special. That his compound is this one compound that has illumination while everyone else is in darkness. That thinking. It pervades many of the sort of unfortunate leaders that we have been cursed.
Because I saw that in Kanilai, and In fact, I couldn't keep it. I asked a soldier, why is Foni so different from Kanilai? And his response was, but it's, wouldn't you build your house? I mean, but then the loyalty, I mean, you can contrast it with Barrow, okay? The loyalty. Now, when Jammeh goes to Kanilai, he tells them, I'm Jola, you are Jola, we should, everybody is against us. But at a couple of Bentley Konakad ride, or Bentley is custom built millions of dollars worth of convoys, millions of dollars.
That can build every house in
that
the
can
whole
build every house in Kanilai.
Plus the surrounding ones too.
Yeah, plus the surrounding ones. Yet will bata fasha kambrat mantra will fasha. So you could contrast it with Barrow. Like since Barrow came to power, his salary has shot up from 170,000 to 500,000 plus. Okay, a month. And yet his folks go around Nyumandinka Fasa, Fula Fasa, Fenke Fasa. But then if we look at the average statistics indicating poverty rate, the Gambia has become poorer in the last 5 years by at least 5 percentage points. Yet Barrow and his people continue to shower themselves with more, more of our collective wealth.
No, whenever you have a government that tries to bring other issues that are divisive in nature, as opposed to things that the whole nation can rally around, but things that are especially divisive, no, that it's just a matter of just throwing sand in your eyes, distracting. It's sort of like when, especially, I find this funny. It's like whenever Ahmad Bas speaks, you have to hit yourself in the face and say, isn't this guy in the government as supposed to be in opposition?
Yes.
Like this guy is the current minister of lands, talking about all foreigners are taking our lands.
Yes.
We have far more pressing problems. Of course, Gambians shouldn't be deprived of land. We should prioritize Gambians owning land.
Yes.
But you are the minister of,
Why don't you fix it?
Yeah, before you come and complain to us about what the problems of lands are, you are sitting there. Nobody is more responsible for the for addressing those problems than you. Come to us with the solutions that we've created, not repeating the problems that we all know exist. The same. So it's basically when you have what Barrow, what Jammeh did during his time is not different from any ineffective leader tries to do. Their main focus is their preservation and longevity in power. Everything's secondary to that, as opposed to their main focus being what is in the national interest. Because once that should always be first principle for a leader. What is in the national interest? Then everything else flows from there naturally. If you start, whenever a government makes a statement or a leader makes a statement about a sector, about their own person, about the country in general, always ask yourself, how is this advancing national interest? And if that's not clear to you, don't allow yourself to be bamboozled. But
the average person gets driven by it. But there is something morally troubling about it. I mean, isn't there? I mean, if you look at you are drumming unity, you are drumming loyalty to a certain sect, yet you are taking pride in taking the lion's share of the collective wealth. And that's the contradiction in Kanilai. I mean, that's the contradiction you would see in Mankamankunda. I mean, Barrow has his own real estate in Mankamankunda where he valued it in 2021, he valued it at 15 million. Before he became president, had nothing there. I mean, not that I'm saying it's spent of ill-gotten wealth, but he got better off. The state didn't get better off, did it?
Yeah. No, I mean, this thing works because the average human being, we are all bundles of contradictions.
Yeah.
We are not perfectly rational or purely rational, even half of the time.
Yeah.
So emotions, govern a lot of our activities, and the existence of these emotions, is preyed upon by these predatory politicians, and they will continue to take advantage of it. And the sad thing is that the more that these bad national leaders perform poorly in power, the more worse off people become, and the more susceptible they become to these ploys. Because as poverty increases, opportunity is not there. People start to kind of focus on their mind on a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Nindolia soto ndebe folala. If
So,
others are advancing, it means
fufu.
I'm losing.
Yeah.
So for me to benefit, others must be deprived. And that doesn't.
And
the world doesn't have to be zero sum.
And do you not also? I think that's what that's what Bob Marley would refer to when he says that they make your brother hungry, and when you have to get a food,
Exactly.
and you two will fight.
Exactly.
And so that's probably a strategy. I mean,
all of these conflicts, whether ethnic, religious, they become salient in society when deprivation, when poverty increases. If economic opportunity is there, people have jobs.
More independent.
Yeah, I mean, listen, before you worry about whether somebody is an Ahmadi or not, a real Muslim or not, I mean, you and your closeness to God, your virtuousness in being a Muslim shouldn't be dependent on what somebody is doing 10 kilometers from you.
Yeah.
If they want, they could worship a Jalango.
Yeah.
It's between them and God in hereafter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you have opportunities to look forward to tomorrow, it becomes easier to forget those.
Yeah.
But when there are no opportunities, when things are bad, these sort of things become a problem. This is why we see all of these social ills.
Because the mind seems to be idle.
The mind is...
Because it's not busy.
Exactly. Yes. It's idle, and also you start looking at, okay, things are not going well for me. Let me look for
victory in some...
No, not victory. Let me look for the agents of my it must be some other person who is, or some other group that is causing it.
Yeah.
When the likely thing is,
like, you want to blame something.
Yeah. You want to look for agents
either
of blame.
Immigrants or
exactly people who are different,
that, yes.
People who pray differently,
yes.
People who speak different languages.
Yes.
This is why it's really tragic, because their messages to preserve themselves become more effective. Why did you think
under such circumstances?
Yes. We see this all the time. It hasn't started here. It won't end in the Gambia.
Yeah.
The only solution to this is having serious leaderships that are focused not on their own self-aggrandizement, not on their own longevity in power, but leaders that are, driven by what is in the nation's interest.
Let's look at now the issue of, we would have to take a little bit before we talk about a little bit of the economy. We look at in the last 2 weeks, Gambia has been gripped about conversations over corruption, corrupt activities, government's involvement in X, Y, and Z, and this followed the protest against PURA, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, after they brought in the so-called data flow or whatever. Price flow, which I am very angry about right now, because I think the last credit
everyone is angry about it.
Yes, the last credit I bought from Comium, it's not what it used to be before this so-called data flow, price flow, whatever. In any case, after the protest happened, the government went and replied to a petition that Gala, the Gambians Against Looted Asset, that was inspired by Republic Story. And in that petition, government talks about a lot of things they are doing about corruption, and there is a particular pattern I want us to talk about. Let's look at first, when you are trying to fight corruption in a country, what do you do? Because we've come, in most of the countries, they will tell you have to punish the top, the people on the top, and you have to punish them harsh, and you have to be quite vicious in the way you do it. Otherwise, there will be no deterrence. Where do you stand on this whole thing? Let's begin the conversation from there. What do we do?
Let's look at success stories. Singapore, for instance, which we in the Gambia have been talking about wanting to emulate since
Since
Jawara's time.
independence, yes.
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 Of course, it became sink at port, as one
Yeah.
friend used to say. Not Singapore, but we became sink at port because we never really took off.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to, to think you have the similarities because you are all small size countries. Another thing when you forget about what makes that country special.
Jammeh also talk about it.
Yeah, later he shifted to Dubai.
Yes.
Yes, but again,
Yes.
but yeah, the thing. I mean, I think you made the first thing is the top of that government needs to be clean. You need to be clean.
So in other words, you need to be morally.
You cannot talk about I want to fight corruption when everyone around you is corrupt. Like
or Jaromen sing of a lot of
yeah.
Exactly.
The problem here is Barrow cannot fight corruption because Barrow is surrounded by corrupt people. The political patrons around Barrow, they are getting contracts through corruption. So this government, they can only speak loudly about corruption. They have no credibility when you find
or probably in the way Ghana Commission report is implemented. I mean, for example, if you have Sabali.
Yes. So here you have when he was in the opposition.
But that's not Barrow alone.
No. Yeah, of course.
Opposition
but Barrow is the one in power.
Yes.
But again, here you have Mamadou Sabali, who at the time when he was not considered politically useful at the time, is like, okay, whatever the commission says, recommend against him, fine, it's good. Let him be punished. And when he went to UDP as a protest, those punishments remain. The moment Adam Barrow found that now Mamadou Sabali can be useful to him and his political agenda, all of a sudden that punishment and whatever he has done disappears. Njoguba, again, this is relevant in terms of Pura here, that is being poorly led. Njoguba, again, his track record, terrible track record during Jammeh's time was laid bare for everyone in the Ghana Commission. Again, as soon as he campaigned for Adam Barrow, he got rewarded and to head one of the most important institutions.
Yeah.
So the point here is you have to be at the top leadership. You have to be serious about it, not only through utterances or press releases or government reports, but through your actions. And these are things that people should see.
So credibility.
Credibility matters. Yeah. And then, as you said, obviously there will be people who are just morally corrupt, morally bankrupt, no matter what environment they will steal. And you cannot do, no vetting is foolproof. Some of these corrupt people will slip through. When these people are, if and when they are hired and they do what they are inclined to do, bring the house down on them. I mean, don't look for mitigation, especially those. In fact, the punishment, the degree of the punishment to me should match the level of the position. I would go easy on those at the bottom. Look at this passport scandal that got mentioned in that government's report. The only person facing, the only two people that I know of or individuals that are facing any sort of consequences are low-level people at immigration or the driver. Are those the people actually doing the final approval for a diplomatic passport issue?
They mentioned only 3 people.
Yes, 3. We have 3,000 diplomatic passports. And what surprised me is like we have opposition leaders. As we say, this problem we have here, it's not just the current leadership. It's the existing legacy parties. The corruption goes to them. Because you have existing leaders, political parties like Mama Kande and others who have diplomatic passport. What business do you have holding a diplomatic passport?
But they even gave it to civil society leaders back then.
Yes. So
Marabous.
Exactly.
1,900 ineligible diplomatic passport holders.
So, reading that report that the government said, to me it's like, again, you have to ask yourself, are these people just playing a joke on the country? Because if I want to write a report to talk about how corrupt this government is, how things are going badly, that's sort of report and documentation I would produce. But for them to think that that report and documentation is a sign that they are fighting corruption just shows that how beyond salvage this group is. they have no idea when they're actually further indicting themselves in public opinion. What they think are mitigating factors are actually aggravating factors. Yeah.
But in this case, how do you deal with a situation like this? Because, I mean, quite frankly, Barrow administration has
You mean how do you deal with it in the context of where Barrow is still, someone like Barrow is still in power?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they still talk about anti-corruption. We'll have an anti-corruption commission. Of course, we have a national audit office, and we have courts that are functioning. We still have Minister of Justice. There are here and there. I mean, there are pockets of cases that are happening. Okay, and there are pockets of prosecution that are happening. We've had Dr. Banja case. Of course, you are painting a scenario where ninja losing of a law in Foronka or to Kosila. That much is clear. But then in a situation where the will is there, like how do you deal with it? Where
You
the will
mean
in a situation where the will is there, like this system.
what will is there?
Like the political will to prosecute. Like this system, when you
But
look at
are
it.
you saying that currently there is a political?
No.
Okay.
Now I'm saying, what reforms do you think is necessary? I mean, assuming of course, assuming that Barrow has the political will, assuming that Barrow singota lorem for and we are ready to look at right?
Exactly.
Okay, so assuming that's the situation, like what do we do? Like,
No, in
what's
that
your
situation,
preferred method?
again, first you start with you have to show people you have there's credibility. Yeah, you have to show people that there's credibility in your will to fight. Yeah,
Because we have a police system also. Because if you have corruption cases in the Gambia, even when you have audits, we also have police. Okay, and the police, they are a political institution. Okay, and if the police investigate and the police are subject to political control, they turn it over to the Minister of Justice. And for us, the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice is woven. It's one and the same. He sits in the cabinet. He's also a political appointee.
exactly.
That's another issue.
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah. So I mean, going back to if we had a government that was serious about it after the credibility part is there, you wouldn't have all of this time wasting shenanigans. Like, you have a commission of inquiry, then forget about it. Years pass, then a parliamentary committee comes, and then you have another report in addition to after the commission of inquiry, you had a white paper. Talked about things you will do, then nothing for another 6 years. Then, during that intervening time period, corruption happens. That is almost as bad as what initially led to the commission of inquiry. Then you have a parliamentary committee that has recommendations, and then again you have another report that saying more and more will be done. You talk about forming yet another more committees. The point is, all of these crimes that have occurred, there are statutes in our books that can address them. If you are serious about addressing this, you don't need any more committees. It's a simple matter of opening a criminal case, and that criminal case doesn't have to drag on for months and months. These commissions, basically the evidence is piled up there. What more do you have to dig to bring the evidence there? Maybe unless if you're looking for confessions on tape. So before you punish these people, of course, there must be due process. They must be taken to court of law, have the opportunity to defend themselves. But when those verdicts are rendered, and in most cases, that guilty verdict should not be in doubt, the government and the court system should come down on them very hard to really set an example to show people that they are serious about corruption.
But we have seen a situation where, and it's important you talked about due process. Government does hide behind due process in this case. Because sometimes you see, for example, okay, we had the AKI, okay? And we know that the young man who approved, who was supervising Atlantic Pharmacy was a staff of MCA, right? Medicine Control Agency, okay? That MCA imported drugs into the country that are not licensed, so initially registered. Actually, according to the MCA Act, registration is compulsory, which means the products were imported illegally. Okay, and this same product was confirmed to have killed dozens of children. Okay, and now you have a situation like that. Now these facts are clear. They're clear, and they don't even need further investigations. Like, they are that clear. Okay, but yet you are still waiting for due process. Like, in a situation like that, government does take due process becomes an excuse instead of.
There is real due process,
Yeah.
and there is making excuses for not doing your job.
Yeah.
What the government is doing is obviously is not a genuine case of due process.
Yeah.
Again, the Auditor General's office
Yeah.
makes a report, a very compelling case that corruption has occurred in a particular area.
Yeah.
You have the president of saying that that's just a mere opinion.
Yeah.
As if it's like you just had a rumor from a pantaba.
Yeah.
Is that president serious? Is that president leading a government that is serious about fighting corruption? No. In government, in many positions in government, you do not have to be convicted of a crime to be sacked. At the very least, to be sacked or face some sort of sanction. Sometimes just doing things, because there, in reality, there are things that are clear cut. There are some things that are gray areas that are not illegal, but they are unethical.
Yeah.
There are some things that may not even be completely clear. They may not be clear case of unethical behavior, but the appearance of impropriety is there.
Yeah.
As a government that is serious about running a clean administration, you don't allow even those.
Yeah.
Even when an official is being asked about information, and they are not being completely forthright. In serious countries, lack of candor, it is a basis for removing people from office. Because what that does is it erodes public trust and confidence in institutions, in government. And when that trust and confidence is missing, government's credibility in other areas, becomes adversely affected. So obviously, it's not real due process, because nobody is saying that as soon as there's a accusation against Mustapha Darboe or Ousman Gajigo, throw them in mile two. No, of course. But
that is what they seem to always imply. Like, when people are saying go and fight corruption, they seem to always imply that people are saying, oh, take them to prison. We cannot take people to prison. We have to apply due process.
Well, of course, Ismail Assise is not serious, and the Attorney General who we have there is not serious. These people are all right now, just not serious people. They are not serious people. They are part of an unserious government. So they are just making excuses for the government rather than being on principle for due process.
So if you look at, for example, the Aki we've talked about, it's clear the drug killed the children. The parliamentary inquiry, in fact, talked about, the presidential inquiry talked about very dangerous level of conflict of interest in the MCA.
Of course.
And we know that's what directly led to the conflict of interest, that also directly led to the lack of proper supervision. Yep. There was a connection. Okay? And the government is still talking about investigating.
And how many years has this been?
It's been over 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, all of these facts are there. Has the court case started?
Well, so they are saying, for example, that they are waiting for the judgment from the private lawsuit that was initiated by the families.
No, a civil matter and a criminal matter, these are different. They don't have to go in. One doesn't have to go after the other.
In each case, in fact, the civil matter was initiated because
there was no action taken on the criminal case.
In fact, so the government actually went ahead to say they proposed how do you call it, a compensation package for the families. The families said, no, that's not true.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. So those families, obviously, they've waited for the government. I mean, hey, look at how quickly Adam Barrow took action against the Voice newspaper.
Yes.
Both criminal and civil case.
Yes.
within a matter of days, if he had the same level of urgency against Gambian children getting poisoned by fake medicine, we wouldn't be in this situation by now.
And let's talk about, there is also a specific case they've mentioned. That's the GPPC issue.
Right.
I mean, we've done a story on the GPPC issue, and it was in no doubt
Yes.
that the managing director owned at least one company, was a shareholder in one company, that was doing business with the company he's heading as the MD, and it's a public state-owned enterprise.
Exactly. I mean, again, this
Which
is
was run to the ground, and they said he's sent on administrative leave. In a situation like that, it's clear cut.
the same thing in the SDF, Social Development Fund.
Yes.
The leadership sent on administrative leave.
Yes.
Gam Petroleum, I don't think that guy is actually sent on leave. He's still there.
No. The chief of staff
Yes.
says the parliamentary evidence connecting Gam Petroleum to sort of the claim that he had given the entire ullage to Apoji is not supported by evidence.
By evidence, yeah. Based on what investigation?
Nothing.
In
fact.
So again,
in fact, when Apoji was at the depot, that space was filled up until they had to take leftover fuel to GPS. So it's clear.
Yeah. So, and there are many more examples beyond this. So here is.
But why is this the case, Ousman? There are some situations where Barrow does not necessarily have personal interest to protect. Yeah. Do you think he considers these corrupt guys comrades in arms or comrades? I mean,
no,
I can't wrap my head around, because there are some instances where Barrow even stand to gain political capital
if he were to
prosecute them.
Yeah, but again, you as a leader set the tone.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean every instance of wrongdoing, the president or someone around him is benefiting materially. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to benefit. But the environment is the environment you create with high-level corruptions that is there. Because there are prominent cases where there is no doubt Barrow and what's around him benefit from that.
But do you not also think that aside from just benefit of either himself or people around him, do you not also think that Barrow listens to the claim that, or to the argument around him that, look, if you near you a political thing, they do that here.
Yeah.
So do you not think these people also sort of make themselves believe that if you fight corruption, it's going to affect your politics?
I strongly suspect. Of course, I am not an insider, but I think that's a very, very plausible argument. I can see why. I mean, for him, it could be like, maybe these guys are, he may not directly benefit, but fighting them is like fighting people who are on his side, maybe fighting for him.
Yeah.
That if you were to go after these people with, in any serious way, the benefit might be uncertain.
Like accommodating Sabali, for example. Okay, you bring Sabali, who morally brings nothing to the table.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. He's a negative moral force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but you are hoping he somehow could be another commando of yours, maybe just as he was Baba's commando.
Yeah. or Sidinjai before Sabali came. Sidinjai. Yeah, he's a guy who actually left with Jammeh. Yeah, he's a guy who, when the ministers were abandoning.
He was the last minister.
Yeah, he was, fighting for, and what he wanted was actually he would prefer civil war to occur.
Yeah.
Just to protect. Yet, Adama Barrow had no problem bringing this man to the fold, inside, elevating him to the level of, a close confidant and deputy speaker. So,
but do you not think, Ousman, also coming Abeko, this system the way it is, only such people can survive in it?
Yeah. So again, like I said,
because for example, if you have me, there are certain things I'm not saying to defend you. But if you have someone who can go any law, can do anything, has no morals, has just no standards, has no.
I mean,
the system survives on those people just as they survive on the system.
Listen, I think. To me, of course, I'm not in Adam Barrow's head, but I can just interpret his actions as I see them in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
here is a guy when he came in, he had an opportunity to, a people who can serve as protocol officers. This is not like some highly technical job.
Yeah.
There are many people who can serve as protocol officers. There are many people who gladly serve a new president in the country. What did the president do? He went and sought out Jammeh's protocol officer. This guy went and retained many of Jammeh's ministers. People who were very close to Jammeh, he brought them back in.
Yeah.
It seems to me these are consistent
Yeah.
with actions of somebody who was like, hey, here is my predecessor. He lasted a very long time. My goal in power is to be in power as long as possible. These people seem to know
How to do that.
how to do that.
But at that time, those folks you are saying they were recycled. That was not Barrow alone, because Barrow at the time was with all the legacy parties.
Exactly.
He
So
was
this is
there
a moral failing of anybody who was in government at the time. It's not
with
only
the
Barrow.
exception of PDYs. He
Exactly.
was with all the legacy parties when
Exactly.
he was recycling.
Everyone who was part of that coalition, who didn't object to all of these people coming in and they were there, they are all morally culpable.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. And let's look at take a little bit of step forward. We've talked about these things for a long time. Maybe go to the economy now. I mean, we've talked about revenue issues relating to what they could have done in Kanilai, but we digress a bit to talk about other issues. But I mean, recently the figures that are coming out of the central bank are not painting a very bad picture. I mean, even though the markets are not getting any better, price of apples are not any easier, and so is the price of fish and rice and any of these things. But the central bank seems to suggest that the inflation is being contained. The economic growth figures are reasonably at a good rate. Even the GDP is projected to grow by, I think, something like 5% or something thereabout. What do you make of it? What was your initial reaction when you read the MPC statement?
Yeah, I've had my problems with the MPC, this Monetary Policy Committee statement from the central bank. I mean, they are quarterly statements, and I'm not a fan of them. The numbers are largely plausible and okay. I don't have a problem with the data, but it's a political document where you have the leadership. Again, I try to make a distinction in this institution between the leadership. Here, I would point directly to Bua, between the leadership versus the regular staff at the central bank, which I know most of them are hardworking. But here, it's like this leadership goes out of its way to project a certain narrative that is at odds with reality. And you can see, when you read the report, you focus on the numbers. What they make as headline statements is not supported by the data. So let's take the leading one, that the economy is growing at 5.3%. Strong growth. That's the phrase they use.
Yeah.
And I recently made a post on Facebook where I said, let's see whether this is strong growth. Now, Gambia is a fragile, low-income country. This is the lowest group of the poorest group of countries. World Bank categorizes countries into 4 groups: low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, and high income. Now, there's a threshold for each of these things. For you to go from one category to the next one, you have to grow. Well, it's nothing impossible. Many countries have done it, but there is a level of growth that you need to achieve, which is we are nowhere near that. So, for instance, I did simple projection. At the current growth rate that the central bank is considering strong, per capita income terms, if that is the growth rate we are considering strong, for the next 30 years, we'll still remain a low-income country. Now, tell me, a growth rate that will still stock you at the same place in 30 years, is that strong? So that's the rhetorical question I posted in Facebook. Obviously, this is not a strong growth. 5.3% for a country at Gambia's level of development is not good. It's nothing to commend the government about. It is not good. Because when you remove the population growth rate, you get the per capita growth rate, which is less than 3%. less than 3% at Gambia's rate, at the Gambia's level of development is a very bad growth rate. Yeah, it means you will remain a poor country for another generation to come. We want to condemn our next generation to be at the same level of economic
trial and error.
It makes no sense. So this is a problem in throughout that whole report. Again, the same thing when they talk about inflation. You know, even though the 2 months that they considered there has been an uptick in inflation, they again wanted to portray that inflation is under control. The same thing when they talk about the value of the dollar.
Yeah.
You know, what did they start with? The foreign exchange market is strong. This amount. It's like the example I gave. It's like
the reserve is good.
Yeah, it's like it's like the Ministry of Fisheries saying that our fisheries market is doing very well because this past year, this amount of tons of fish were caught. Is that the right metric?
No, that's not.
The important metrics like the price of fish in the country.
Yeah.
The level of stock, is the stock being depleted or sustainable level? These are the right metrics,
and
not the volume of
the
fish
consumption compared to the volume.
Exactly. Are people's protein requirements being met? Are these things being affordable? The most important price in the foreign exchange market is the foreign exchange rate.
Yeah.
Now, for a certain economy, you actually want your currency to be depreciating. You know, it depends on the context. Sometimes depreciation is good for you. Sometimes it's bad. In the Gambia's context, continuous depreciation is bad for economy.
Because we import.
Because we are import dependent.
Yeah.
Our import currently is about 700 million.
Yeah.
Our export is only about 200 million. That gap is been the largest since independence.
That's 500 million.
Yes. That's like the size of our national budget.
Yeah.
That gap, our trade deficit, currently is the largest it has ever been in the history of the country.
Yeah.
When this persistent deficit contribute to current account deficit, it also puts pressure on your dollar, which also means that because you're an import-based economy, it means inflation increases. It means higher cost of living. It means lower standard. The standard of living is falling, which means poverty rate will increase as our numbers are showing. But they don't make any of this comment. If you listen to their write-up, it means that everything is going well.
It's
but when you look at the numbers and the implications, you know that economy is doing very bad.
But even if you look at, for example, let's not take it very far away. If you look at even our trade with Senegal, I mean, we're not doing better, we're doing badly. Even more recently, there was issue of Gambians importing through Senegal. Even the GRA had to find a way to try to tax them.
Exactly. I mean, people bring in containers even through the other.
In
Senegalese port.
And we've had situations where even in our own country, safe are being used very widespread.
Yes.
Most of the lumos in the border areas is safer. Trading there, Farafene, all these areas.
And people, rental properties in the country is being denominated in US dollars.
Yes. And we have situations even in the fish landing sites where safer is being used.
Exactly.
And
we even have foreign fish. Do you know now on our coastal areas that is fish actually being brought outside?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, even restaurants are buying some fish from shrimps from Kafunting and other places. I mean, do you not think also, I mean, for us to be able to deal with this is not the central bank's domain though. I mean, this has to be from a government-wide policy where we sit down and draw a map to make the country more productive. And where do we begin that conversation?
Well, the conversation starts with making sure that we completely rubbish this false narrative that's been set, because that's a goal to that narrative is to try to put a wool over people's eyes that things are going well when they are not. Before you solve a problem, you must face the fact that you have a problem.
Yes.
So that you know the severity of the problem, and then you can think very clearly about what the remedies should be. Now, I mean,
let's begin with the issue of rice. We've talked about this one time before. Because rice forms huge chunk of what we import.
Is it number 2 after oil?
Yeah, huge chunk, and what do we do in that kind of a case? That should have been easier to cancel out.
This should be the easiest thing.
To
Any
cancel out,
competent government, if you
yeah.
cannot address rice subsistence in 3 years,
Yeah.
that is an indictment against you,
Yeah.
because all the solutions are really under our control.
Yeah.
The question, I mean, what do you need? The most important factor for the rice subsistence is like any agricultural activity is land. We
Land,
have
yes.
arable land.
Yes.
Right now, let me just put this thing in. The amount of we allocate 15% of our arable land to rice cultivation.
Yeah.
But our productivity is the lowest in all of ECOWAS. We have the lowest yield. If we in Gambia, our yield is less than a ton per hectare. In Senegal, it's 4 tons per hectare. This is the world average. Now, just keeping constant the amount of land we are growing right now without adding anything. If we have Senegal's yield,
yeah.
we will be able to produce more than 50% of the rice we consume. Currently, we only produce about 10%. But if we have Senegal's level of yield, that alone, without doing anything alone, we'll be able to, cut our rice imports by half. If you do that, that alone, just without doing anything else, that alone, the impact will be very profound on our
it will be
economy.
very profound.
Because right now, rice is our second largest import bill after oil.
Yeah.
So a lot of this rice that's coming in, it's importation, because the amount of rice we import is huge. The per capita rice consumption in the Gambia is 120 kilograms of passing per year.
Yeah.
You multiply that by the population, that is many millions of kilograms.
Yeah.
If you deduct that value from our export, our imports, you're talking about a huge reduction in our import bill.
They're saying we are somewhere around over 200,000 tons of rice consumption a year.
Yes, something like that. But basically, all you have to do is just multiply 120, and this is meal rice, 120 kilograms by 2.5 billion. This will tell you what our relative consumption is. Take 90% of that. That will tell you what we import. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a large amount. So all the factors. So I started with land. We have land.
Yeah.
All it takes is a small percentage of
but we have water
land.
Also.
That's what I'm saying. We have irrigation. So that's the other factor. We have irrigation. In fact, a small area of CRR or URR would be enough to feed all of Gambia and even export rice.
Yeah.
We have development assistance. We have the Rice Valley project from ADB in 2017 that came to help several.
2017?
2017, yeah.
There was also one in 2015 called Rice Valley Chain, whatever.
Almost,
there has always been rice projects.
Let me tell you,
projects.
There has been all of these projects that come in agriculture, the roots, and many projects, even giraffe, they all include some component of rice. But they have all not been fully utilized as
but
they
do
should
you
have
not
been.
think that that's what we've started the conversation with? Development has to be authored by the people.
Exactly.
Unless it's authored by the people, this project proposal intellectualism is not going to cut it.
It's not even project proposal. Some of these projects are not even authored by the Gambia. It's like you have some officers in these institutions, whether it's ADB, World Bank, FAO, or IFAD. They have projects that they have performance indicators, and they have to get these projects approved.
Yeah.
These projects come, and we have officers here who should.
Well, you think it's being approved there and then...
Yes, I'm brought here, but there are people sitting here who are like, we are just waiting for the projects so that we can fill our bank account. Those projects are not being brought to address the national problem, because all these projects that have come over the past since 2017 and now, they have values if they have been invested as they should have. We shouldn't have a rice import. We shouldn't be importing any rice. There should be no village garden here that is without water, that is without fence, that is without cold storage, that's without storage. Let me give you an idea. I started a project where I helped women garden with all sort of seeds and water and other things. Before I launched that project, I went around the country I did an estimation of how many village gardens there are in the country. I came to some, some, when you go in some villages, it will some gardens will not operate 1 year because maybe the pump is broken. In some villages it's intermittent. So it ranges from somewhere from 100 to 130. Now, if you take a more, you sit down and calculate the needs of those gardens. The average garden size is about 3 hectares. There are about 275 women on average. Now, their need in terms of irrigation, in terms of fencing, in terms of inputs, in terms of cold storage, you add that together in a given year, and these are long-term investments because you will not you won't have to do it every year. It's less than $10 million. Less than 10 million. Now, each of these single agricultural projects.
It's like 25% of how much we spend on the roads in Banjul.
Yeah, but put it in let's use a more relevant context. Each of these projects that have come here recently since Adama Barrow came to power, that have been around, the ADB projects, the roots, the giraffe, and all other projects. Each of these projects are more than $50 million.
Yeah.
So our problem in the horticultural sector would have been easily solved if we had a leadership.
By 10 million.
10 million.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah. The thing is, if you have a government that is serious, that could be solved without a butut from a donor.
Yeah.
Because if you are serious, you take that as a goal of your country to address rice and horticulture. Then you will bring those projects. You will you'll allow them to come in to help you address that problem. You don't sit and wait for those projects to come and start the work. You start that work by putting your budget there. But you listen to CD Keita talking about, we don't, on the budget, we don't have a lot going into agriculture because our donors are funding it. Well, you have basically washed your hand of the responsibility of your most important sector.
Yeah, and also, do you not think part of the reasons why we are also so invested in donor funding, donor this, donor that, it's also the lack of accountability associated with it.
Oh yeah, the government.
But also to mess up maybe local funds.
No, it's also just listen. What is the most coveted position in any ministry?
The project development.
The project implementing unit.
Yeah.
You go to any of these ministries.
They call it project coordination unit.
Yeah, central project coordination unit. Yes. Yeah, they have a nice building there on
in Banjul.
Yeah, opposite Gambia High.
Yes.
Even where they don't have a nice building, in most ministries that have funding, this is the most coveted spot because.
And they get paid on the projects also.
Of course, you get paid a lot of money. Your office will get furnished. Sometimes before even a single butut goes to the project beneficiaries, you'll get new vehicle, new desk, air conditioners. You do a lot of workshops in Ginoe and places that you don't need them and pay yourselves per diem. The government doesn't scrutinize it so much because it's money coming from outside. Yeah. So for people who are directly involved in it, it's very lucrative.
And I mean, we've been here for too long now. We'll have to draw it closer to an end. But where do we go from here? I mean, we've looked at the issue of fisheries. We're having the same problem because even in the fisheries sector also, we've been told we are underutilized. I mean,
we are underutilized?
Like the fisheries sector, the sector, the way it could have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say underutilized. I would just say it's basically been destroyed. Yeah.
Destroyed. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the impact of the fish meals, the trawlers, the fishing agreement with EU, with Senegal, I mean, and then you compare that to the lack of productivity of the sector. I mean, where do we begin this? I mean, do you think we've lost the way?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we probably have since independence, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, in
because
some ways
I wouldn't blame this. I wouldn't put this down to Barrow because what Barrow is doing essentially is what we've been doing since independence. I mean, maybe Jawara had a little bit of difference in that he has invested a bit on the coastline. You know, ikata water mo hanin tol
And,
family
well,
ya.
and a larger percentage, we were producing a larger percentage of our rice consumption
Yes, yes,
during
yes, not
Jawara's
just
time.
rice, even fish. Because in formally our time bato bungol beji, other things, your cold storages, even in the village. But now you don't have those things. But Barrow seemed to have just doubled down on what Jammeh had left here.
And made it worse.
Yeah.
No, I mean, let's be careful here. I mean, he continued things, but the Barrow government made things worse.
Yeah.
If we can put numbers on this in
Yeah.
agriculture,
Yeah.
our most important, our biggest export item, groundnut.
Yeah.
During Jawara's time,
Yeah.
we were producing over 100,000 tons of groundnut.
Yeah.
Uh, when Jammeh came to power during Jammeh's time, it fell down, but not by much, around 90,000. But under Barrow, groundnut production plummeted. Now it's less than 50,000 tons. In other words, the amount of groundnut we are producing now is less than half of what we were producing under Jammeh.
Yeah.
So, in some ways, yes, it's a continuation, but the degree of the deterioration that has occurred is unprecedented under this government.
But yet we've spent, so for example, in the last budget, I mean, of course, we have to factor in inflation, which is also the government's own fault. If you compare the budgets that has been spent by Jammeh, I mean, all the last 5 years of Jammeh put together, this recent budget is more than that.
Yes.
Just 1 year budget.
It's increasing each year, yes.
Yeah, so we keep increasing the expenditure.
Well, our economy is expanding, the country is getting bigger, so obviously all of the other things will go up.
Will go up, but then the productivity is not going up comparatively.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen.
And can we fix a problem like that?
No, of course it can be fixed. I mean, again, let me go to rice.
Yeah.
In the early 1990s, the level, the rice productivity between Gambia and Senegal were almost identical.
Yeah.
We all used to have about 2 tons per hectare, roughly, a little over that. Then around 1994, the divergence started happening. Senegal kept going on an upward trajectory, Gambia on a downward trajectory. But again, when we look at all of the determinants of productivity of rice, and as we discussed, if we address the rice sector, there's a lot of things that you will address simultaneously. Because we have all of the ingredients that we need, the factors. We have land, we have water irrigation, we have a flat topography, agroecological environment is favorable to rice cultivation. These the inputs, you can bring them at the right time. We have donor support. Donors are ready to support us if things are being projects are being executed according to plan. What we have been missing here is the right leadership. If we had the right leadership at the very top, you wouldn't have somebody like Demba Sabali as Minister of Agriculture, who has no clue what is happening in agriculture. So the problem is the leadership. Adama Barrow has no idea how to address the agricultural sector, or for that matter, most of the sectors that really determine our economy's well-being. Adama Barrow, if you ask him today, the key indicators in rice, in cash crop, in horticulture, he has no clue, and he doesn't have the people around him to enlighten him, because we make the mistake of I hope people will now we will no longer continue this mistake of thinking that the president not having knowledge is not a problem as long as he has good advisors. Because who determines the advisors? Who hires them?
Yeah.
They all serve at his pleasure. So right now, Adama Barrow thinks the best advisor who can advise him on the agricultural sector is Demba Sabali. But what evidence is there that Demba Sabali knows what is happening in agriculture? Zero. So right now here, the solutions here, before we even go into the technical details, it's all about having the right leadership.
Yeah.
When that is absent, it's pointless almost talking about.
Well, you do not also think that, Ousman, it's a critical thinking in this case may be, I mean, our folks maybe are just not interested.
What do you mean, what folks?
I mean, the president and his team, maybe they are just not interested.
Well, as we said,
because if you look at, for example, you look at rice, and you are seeing, honestly, you are seeing in all honesty the figures, and you're seeing it's going down. And you look at horticultural production, you're seeing in all honesty, you're seeing it's going down. Okay, you've gone around, you've helped gardeners, including my village. Okay, Salikane. So you've seen figures, and you've interacted, and Barrow has gone down many times probably than you do, even if he hasn't done it physically. But Barrow has more spies around this country than you do. So his
but
presence is
do they
literally.
spy on the on what is
But his
important?
presence is literally everywhere, 24 hours. I mean, and Barrow has, the state has agents that are everywhere. They have agricultural departments, so they are collecting data at every point. So they know, they are informed just as you are at any point what's going on. They have fisheries experts everywhere. They have fisheries officers along the coastline everywhere. They are collecting data everywhere. They know, and they can now currently have an impact analysis of the fisheries agreement with the European Union. They can have an impact analysis of fisheries. I mean, what I'm saying is the president knows these sectors productively are not as they should be. But surely he's not doing much about it. I mean, you don't think that's not absence of knowledge. It's just necessarily absence of
Caring about,
will.
yeah.
Absence of will, maybe.
I think it's a combination of both. Now, obviously, I'm not advising, but I'm not sitting at the state house, so I don't know. I cannot tell you exactly the relative contribution of these two. But I think it's safe to say it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I do, we do know that the people that many people around Barrow are just incompetent. They are not there because of their competence.
We have sectors. So, for example, you have Department of Fisheries.
No, but you can have a sector on the ground where people are competent, but then the leadership there, like let's say for instance, at Pura right now, I have no doubt. I don't know everyone in Pura, but I have no doubt there are competent people in Pura.
Yeah.
But will any of those people have a chance to talk to Barrow? No, they'll have to go through Njoguba.
Yeah.
Njoguba right now has depressed his mere presence as a leader there has depressed the productivity of Pura, irrespective of how competent those people are. I have spoken to people, I have met people in Ministry of Agriculture, in Ministry of Finance, in Central Bank who are very smart, very competent. But again, if you go and put Demba Sabali in Ministry of Agriculture, you have deliberately made so that the productivity of those people now will almost not matter, because the information that they could supply to decision makers at very top, basically you have like put a wrench in the process. So the the presence of these technical units and competent people in these units is not sufficient for the right decision to be made at the very top. This is why leadership becomes important. You can have 99.9% of the people in GAM Petroleum be very good and competent. But you put an MD there who is corrupt, whose goal is self-enrichment, and then the productivity of that whole unit would be squashed.
Okay, so maybe just finally, I kept people for too long, and I kept you also for too long. Maybe also that's the point. Maybe that's the point. The fact that the focus is not on the productivity of the state, on the enrichment of the state. They are distracted because the focus is on self-enrichment, or just for the love of the job. Maybe for the love of the position, maybe. Not necessarily for the love of the job.
And I think this is a big part of it. And people, I think, are wising up to this. You go around the country nowadays, people make a distinction between politicians who will be palace and
But that's also the fundamental source of Makoinga Baraka, the idea in Mandinka Makoinga Baraka.
So again, it comes down to you don't have to be in President Barrow's head. You don't have to sit in on his meetings. From one's action, you can see what's really motivating them. If the motivation of Adam Barrow and his government is for the advancement of the country, development of the country, certain actions we are seeing, we wouldn't be seeing them. Or even if we see them momentarily or briefly, we would see other actions that would talk about, okay, slip up happened, but they woke up to the problem and they've addressed it. But the current, the disastrous state of productivity in agriculture, the way things are going in fisheries, a government that cares about, they have the ability and then they have the will to do something about it, we wouldn't be seeing what we are seeing. So the only explanation, possible explanation left is we have a government whose main goal is just staying in power as long as possible. That's the conclusion I can make.
Dr. Gajigo, thank you for being on the very